Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Voices of Humanity show at prconnectionsradio.com, the voice of new media. My name is Guy Dawson, and I am your host. And I am here with Johnnie Williams. He is an encouragement specialist and a good friend of mine who has a lot of deep insights into aspects of life that I think are very important for all of humanity in these times. And welcome to the Voices of Humanity show, Johnnie.
Thanks so much, Guy. I appreciate you having me.
What is an encouragement specialist? I'm sure most of the people out there have never heard that term before.
I would say, simply put, it's someone who initially aims to encourage folks, but deeper than that, um, you realize that motivation it sounds great, inspiration sounds better, but sometimes they come with this premonition that one might know or think they know more than you, or think they know what's best for you, or they're pushing you but don't know what you're pushing past, right? So an encouragement specialist, in my opinion, as how I've begun labeling myself, has more to do with listening to who it is I'm speaking to, an audience, better understand what it is they need from me, as opposed to coming with just a motivational script or sharing inspirational quotes or statements. An encouragement specialist seems like you better know what the person or who the people you're trying to encourage, what they really need from you or what they're asking from you, and be willing to leave the rest of what you offer off the table. So, so for me, it's just a genuine connection and a genuine interest in seeing folks elevate from one level of life to the next level of life, if that's what they aim to do.
And there was thing that you touched on a second ago in terms of the difference between motivation and encouragement. And of course, you have a big industry made up of people who are called motivational speakers. And
Mm-hmm.
yet, I think the thing that people seek on a higher level than motivation truly is that they want to be encouraged. They want to be uplifted by people. And of course, from my perspective, encouragement lasts a lot longer than motivation lasts. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, my thoughts would be, let's look at the word encouragement. So most of us, we see en, but I see in. Like, we got to go inward. We got to find your courage. For many people, their greatest fear, even more so than death, is public speaking. So public speaking is your greatest fear than speaking up for yourself in a meeting. Speaking up for yourself in a relationship could hinder one's life and affect it greatly, right? So, as an encouragement specialist, I believe many of the motivators and inspirers out there in the industry, they are also encouragement specialists. I just decided to call it what it was I felt I was aiming to do. I couldn't say that I motivated you or anyone else, but I can say I aim to encourage you. As I offer encouragement, people seem more receptive to that, as opposed to say, can I offer you motivation? But what we're really doing is activating the inner courage. That key word, encourage. That means it's in you, and you want to see that courage working for you, as you might see it as me or any other motivator speaking to you with courageousness and and high esteem. Oftentimes, people are saying, "Okay, I'm trying to find that in myself, or I need some help pushing past my comfort zone to get to that in myself." So, what I see myself as an encouragement specialist doing is specializing and thinking of multiple ways to help you go inward, to tap into the courage that's in you. But sometimes it takes listening to the backstory and better understanding the audience, and not just seeing an audience as another speech, another group that could buy product, but more so taking a vested interest in saying, hey, I want this person to tap into the source that I've tapped into, so that they're empowered. And long after I'm gone, they now are their own inspiration. We cross paths, it's for respect, it's for collaboration, but it's not for needing me. And I no longer have that need to feel needed by clients or those that might hear some of my words. So, so I wanted to specialize in that, and I held myself to high regard and to a higher standard of excellence by saying I'm an encouragement specialist. So I am looking for ways to help people go inward, to tap that courage that they have and that they need to move with throughout their life.
And in addition to being an encouragement specialist, Johnnie is also an author. He wrote a fascinating book with some amazing quotes in it called Something to Think About. And I have a copy of it. I read the quotes regularly, and I also receive updates with these quotes in an amazing app that he uh, has distributes. And tell us about that. What does the book Something to Think About represent, and how are you using that technology in order to tap into the needs of people in our society now with phones being so prevalent?
Well, taking from our last question as it relates to the encouragement specialist, I wanted to encourage individuals from young to elder in age to just think critically, to think for the sake of thinking. And one of the best ways for me to offer insight and offer encouragement to do just that was to release 369 of my quotes. So over the last 3-4 years, I focused on writing a quote a day or releasing a thought of mine each day, to the tune of more than 1,000 quotes. Didn't want to put that many in the first book. We thought we'd write some interesting volumes as it relates to something to think about. But in this particular book, 369 of those thought-provoking statements are in here. What makes this different is one, each of the 369 quotes are all originals. Two, every quote comes with a question that gets you going, that allows you to go within yourself, go back into your backstory, your history, your thoughts. So just like encouragement takes you in to find the courage, something to think about invites you back inward and more towards self-awareness. So I was excited to put forth in the beginning of 2020 this particular book offering, this gift, and had the opportunity to create an app. And we simply called the app Think About It, because that is really what we want people to do. So many people, by mere habit, when asked a question, will respond with, I don't know. And we wanted to challenge that, not by saying, let's challenge that, because it's hard to just challenge a habit. You have to intentionally replace a habit, especially those that might fall under the term bad habit. So, so Think About It delivers one of these quotes each day of the year. And being the fact that we released 369 of the quotes in the book, we had an app that could actually provide in 7 different languages one of these quotes on a daily basis. And that wasn't enough. We wanted to make sure that we slowed people down, because oftentimes we want to race through things. You know, we're so outcome driven that we miss the journey oftentimes in our lives. And we move so fast. And as soon as we get to destination, we realize that's it. Now it's on to the next destination. When we think that life is more about enjoying the journey, you'll find some destinations along the way, but enjoy the journey. So day by day, you get one quote. You can't go back to yesterday, just like you and I can't go back to yesterday. We can reflect upon it. We can learn from it. We can make improvements from it, or we benefit from it. But we can't go back and insert anything into yesterday. All we get is the moment. So each day you're given a fresh quote. There's a paid version and there's a free version. And the paid version just gives you quotes as they are directly in the book. So it's like getting a different version of the ebook. The free version gives a small, catchy statement within the quote. So there's like a message within the message. And we thought that that would be wonderful, especially for our student population. For those who've already bought the book itself, it's a great way to just highlight the different bolded sections of each quote within the book, so that way this is a reminder to stay engaged with the book, not just read it once, put it down, or put it on the shelf with a collection of other books. So we just wanted to find some different creative ways to bring this book to life and extend its shelf life. And part of that was taking up real estate on people's smart devices, because there's so many smartphones that are constantly upgrading week by week, day by day. But you have intelligent individuals that are failing to sharpen their mental pencil per se. So what we wanted to do is provide a thought a day that just gives you something to focus on, something to think about, and something to keep you in your conscious space, so we're not so reactionary as we navigate this life of ours.
And you mentioned, and by the way, I got my copy of Something to Think About.
Okay,
There
all
was
right.
a outstanding marketing strategy I felt that you utilized when you were first developing this platform, and it was you had pictures of a bunch of people holding something to think about.
Yes.
And so, what was your thought process behind that as you were using that as a marketing platform for your book? Just having all these people holding it up.
What was interesting is when you sit down and you put anything together that you're going to offer to humanity, right? When the intention is genuine, you know that your role is to produce, someone else's role is to receive. But once you have a producer and a receiver, there's a relationship. So it's not just about one anymore, it's about us. And being the fact that this is a book that I knew was not going to be complete until you inserted your answers in your own book. So it's like every page offers a quote, but then there's half of a page left for you to write your thoughts related to the quote, related to the thought prompt or question. And once you, as Guy Dawson, insert anything into that book, it's now your book. So now it's not just my book, it's our book, because that book is unlike any other because you have now made it unique. We wanted to make sure that we didn't push customers, push readers, push friends and family into the role of observer. Sometimes when you present your own mastery in life, first self-mastery, then you might master a subject, master a content, right? Oftentimes when information is presented, people become the audience to your mastery. Well, we decided you too are a master. Whether you figured out what you master, whether you've chosen what to master, but you too are a master on a journey to become a masterpiece, a piece of the master puzzle, right? But perfectly you. So we wanted to celebrate the different types of people that were engaging with the product. And it's one thing for us to see it, and then we're just out there just pushing the book and pushing the book to new folks. But if individuals could see someone that maybe looked like them, or somebody that they knew, or, oh, if they got the book, I look like we have something in common. So maybe the author doesn't have as much in common other than having a product you may be interested in, but somebody who's picked it up and read it that is more aligned, maybe by age, maybe by gender, maybe by culture, maybe by race, you begin to see this is a gift for anyone who just wants to engage with new and unique quotes, because there are a lot of powerful quotes that are out there that we've all read, and some are hidden gems that we might see in people's papers, dissertations, in speeches, right? Sometimes used in boardrooms or in locker rooms, whatever. So we know that quotes have a long shelf life. But these are all originals that you probably haven't heard. And there's a certain style to the way I write quotes that are layered. It's like I'm trying to say something to you, but I'm not trying to give you an end result, because I leave room and I respect the fact that we're all individuals with a different lens. So this book gives us a platform to engage with each other on a thought. But in doing so, we're not approaching the conversation with I don't know or IDK. We come with our own thoughts and opinions, which go back to I was courageous enough to share my thoughts, no matter how somebody might feel about them, in the subjects of life, politics, parenting, education, achievement, relationships. So those are areas that relate to all of us, despite our differences. But people have also come to confrontation over politics, come to judgment over education and topics. So I wanted to create a platform where there was a genuine respect, and get us to the point where we start thinking critically and being okay with people having a different vantage point or viewpoint on things. And I think that we've done that. It just was an interesting time to release a book, um, because, of course, the release date coincided with a lot of the lockdowns of 2020. But nonetheless, we knew that quotes have the shelf life to last years and years and years, decades, Um, so I didn't really feel the pressure, like we have to hurry and get it into people's hands because it's on such a timeline to be relevant. I knew that they hold value and they hold relevance, that will extend long beyond this year. Matter of fact, there are a lot of things that are written prior to this year that relate and give one something to think about in the very moment, in the very storm that we find ourselves.
I know a big part of your platform and your message, Johnny, is focused around children, and you've spoken in front of many, many groups of young people about a lot of different topics, specifically oriented towards education. Why is education such a significant part of what it is that you want to teach young people about?
Well, I think education offers, or is supposed to offer, the tools for us to express what it is we've come to do with our life. So when we look at the Latin root for education, um, two words come up: educere and educare. Educare is much like what we have now in education, which is to prepare one for society, prepare someone to assimilate so we can all coexist together, commingle. So we teach you the red lights means stop, green means go. We teach you social etiquettes. We teach you how to read. We teach you the language. All that falls under educare. Educere is to bring from within. So just like saying encouragement is talking about going inward and bringing forth the courage to be you, not to be what others have suggested for you or have pushed you towards. So I find that education gives you the tools to express yourself, to express the you that's really you. I find that oftentimes many people forget that, and they hang their hat solely on education as it relates to producing an outcome or monetizing intellect. We can put it like that, and that's great. But certain people have had great outcomes as far as I leverage my college education or leverage what education I have to get a monetary outcome, but there's something missing. I went and bought the car, but there's something missing. I got the big house and lots of friends, but there's something missing. So I find that if education is used to craft, to build, and to deliver the gift that was given to you, everybody's unique. If we weren't, why would we all have our own fingerprint? Why would we be as unique as a snowflake? Why in this abundant planet we find ourselves on, will we not just be carbon copies of one another? Why would our perspectives be different? So this is where I see education is learning to be flexible, you know, and I think that when we're not careful with how we educate, even if we mean to care, I think education slides towards the point of indoctrination and abandons the education. So what do I mean by that? I take 20 years that I'm bringing to this statement. 20 years, speeches done across this country, in and out of this country, 1,900 plus presentations, K-12, university. So I'm not speaking from, some farce opinion. I'm saying that we've gotten so focused on leaving no child behind that we forced our educators into a position where they're stressed to teach towards a test. Tests that say we've done our job. But by the time we clarify that we've done our job, we don't have thinkers, we have rememberers, meaning kids are coached to remember what to answer correctly on a test, but not so much how to engage the content in such a way that they can live a fruitful life and contribute to conversations. And when you don't do that, you see things like we see now, where you see the inflexibility when you bring things forth like politics, elections, when you bring forth racial tensions and confusion, and people aren't able to get past certain level of dialogue, which is where the solution and where resolutions, reside. Because everybody is so cut on answers that have already been given, but if the answers already given haven't provided us the solutions we're looking for in this moment, we have to be more flexible. We have to think deeper and think more critically. But if we look at what's being done right now, if that's not something that's being learned early on, if I'm being asked to remember and not to think critically and think deeper, then you end up with more and more generations of young people coming into society, making their own choices, and you have a very reactionary populace as opposed to a critically thinking populace. And that's what we wanted to do. Not speak to that. I've seen it. So immediately I can say that I've seen society evolving into exactly where we are right now over the last 20 years. Attention spans shortening, um, character backsliding, but I've also seen the disconnect in the connection digitally. So as we've connected digitally, we've become disconnected socially. And I knew that there would be an outcome that we would see later, and now we're starting to see more and more of that. So I think education is the key to us really helping people see that school is offering the tools for you to bring forth your thing, bring forth your gift. And I think when it's over leveraged and used in a suppressive way, I think it does more damage sometimes than it's doing us good.
And of course, Johnny, a lot of what you are talking about involves critical thinking and learning how to think for yourself.
Yeah.
With our youth, who are they're very impressionable. They're coming up in a world that is unique with all the technological advances. A minute ago, you had talked about a lot of the disconnect that the technology is causing people to have in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
What are some ways that a young person in particular can become stronger as a critical thinker, or to become more connected rather than disconnected, as you had mentioned a couple of minutes ago?
Mm. Okay, so that's a very unique question. It's a great question, and so many people when observing a question being tossed, they're waiting on an answer, and there's no one answer for that particular question. What I would say is what we see in our children have a lot to do with the two that got one here. So it's very difficult for a child because their brain is still developing almost all the way to the age of 24, 25. The brain is still developing and being able to see around the bend, around the corner. That's why a lot of times our teens and preteens make such short-term decisions, because in that moment, that's all they see is the moment. The parent comes in, the teacher comes in and corrects and says, hey, don't you realize where that's going to take you and how that is going to create an outcome you don't want? They really don't see it yet. And it's not because they're not smart or they're not wise. It's because their brain and where they are in the brain development just hasn't reached that point. So it's hard sometimes to say how kids could, better manage this disconnect without looking at adults better modeling it.
Mm.
You see, um, we can ask that they put the devices down, but many of us that didn't grow up with the devices have our head down. As we say, you need to get off that phone. Meanwhile, I'm sending a text. Now, it might be for work. but in their opinion, you're doing the same thing. And when we look back and we needed a little bit of time, and here these devices that were great pacifiers and sometimes great babysitters, we offered these tools. So they've grown up digital. So to them, this is a connection. So what I say to many parents is you have to first value what people value. So I would say value what they value. Now, once that is established, the hands don't go up where they can see. You're about to take away what I value. And now you can start to ask the question, what are you into? Who are you listening to? How much time do they prepare before they give you what they're offering? Even if they're just entertaining, what do you think goes into that? There's ways to take what they're into and get them to think critically. Now ask yourself, is this person that you follow and this person that you watch for 1 hour, 2 hours a day, right? Are they watching you for 2 hours a day? Are you monetizing because they're paying attention to you? Now, do you think that's what you came to this life to do? To merely spectate? So what's going to be your creation? Let them be your inspiration. Now let's create. But you can't create without knowing something, without mastering something. So you begin to start building them towards creating their own. So I believe that we all were brought forth here, by the creator of all things, right? To create the creation that we see. So young people are some of our most creative. But we bore them away from creativity. We sometimes negate and don't pay attention to their attempts to show us their creativity. It could be, that colorful mess of art and say, look at my picture. But if you don't pay attention and see that today there was a little less green, a little more red, today you colored a little more inside the lines than you did yesterday. Instead of saying, yeah, you begin to master the fact of the connection that's going to be necessary so you can help them shift to a better direction. They're going to need to be directed is what I'm saying. So that's the long and short of the answers. We got to direct them. But we have to be conscious and aware of what we're doing as we're modeling a better option. And we have to be respectful to what they now value, so that they respect our opinion, our contribution. Because ultimately, they want outcomes also. So they have a great opportunity with the Internet of Things to leverage it in a way that would benefit them, to use it more responsibly, to not let it rob them of the great big world that's out there. Where just today on a walk, we saw a group of teens, and it was a beautiful sight because they're out there having a good time, and you could hear the laughter and things we haven't seen or heard for a minute. But they were taking a selfie. So all three of them try to squeeze together. And one of them is saying, I need my new shoes to be in the picture. Now they're trying to get the headshot, and she's trying to make sure her shoes are in the picture, right? So we're watching how they're trying to squeeze life into a frame. Now we could say, hey, live life. Look at all this around. Just enjoy it. But in their world, they need other people to know that they're busy enjoying life. And they were enjoying that moment. So they just see it differently. It's just a matter of what caption you're going to put with that picture, right? You just put the picture out. What else are you going to offer with that makes you different, that expresses who you are? And before they say, I don't know, you catch them. Say, just don't tell me I don't know, right? That's what the brand is all about, is catching them before they say by habit, without consciously thinking, I don't know. Because I don't know is never going to pay a bill, right? And that's what most parents are concerned about, is their kids not being able to take care of themselves, be self-sufficient. So let's teach them how to think. Let's expand upon what they're interested in. And I think in that expansion, you can bring in new concepts, and you replace some wasted time with some more constructive time, that they're actually building something or building upon their own skills.
Another unique experience that you had in your life is working with your brother, who was a star in the NBA for many years. And the story is just fascinating about how you as a representative, you working with him as a marketing and PR person, were able to craft this incredible image of your brother. Will you share with us what that story was all about?
Yeah,
Going along on the journey with him through the NBA and
yeah.
creating a message of education and positivity in that way.
Well, I'm the oldest of three boys, and my brother Jerome, so Jerome Williams, um, was blessed with the opportunity to go and play 9 years in the NBA. Um, our youngest brother Joshua at the time was um, right around 10, 11 years old. So he's watching his big brothers. We're all on TV. Jerome gets drafted in the 96 draft with Kobe Bryant on one side, Steve Nash over here, Ray Allen. So a lot of the greats that are heading now, Allen Iverson, heading into the Hall of Fame. One of the things that we knew going into this blessing was Michael Jordan was already on the Mount Rushmore of greats. And anybody that got close was just in comparison to whether it was Wilt and other greats. Michael Jordan was that face and that example coming in. What I recognized that Jerome and I sat down and talked about was two things. One, he had just graduated from Georgetown University with honors. So he was one of the few graduates in that 1996 draft. That's not necessarily the NBA image that the individuals getting drafted are coming from a single parent household. Both my parents were right there at the draft. They had been together, um, 15, 20 years by that time. I guess if Jerome and I were like 23 or 24, they had been together already 20, 25 years. So we had a strong parental unit. Both our parents, educated at private schools. So we had that. We saw the teamwork. But I knew that so many young kids were looking at my brother's outcome along with the other draftees. Like, if I just shoot a ball, I can be a star and I can make it. I don't have to worry about the class and worry about the school and worry about the books. I just need to be able to put a ball in the basket from in close and out far, just like they do. And I said, no, no, no. My brother left high school with no scholarships. So, like myself, because of an injury, I went to junior college, a 2 year school, Montgomery Junior College. A lot of respect goes to them because they were catalysts in the life that my brother and my family has gone on to live. Um, but they had a basketball team, didn't require much. You paid your way to go to school, so you just try out, you make the team, and you get a chance to go play in the college experience at the junior college level. I didn't realize that my brother was following my example. I was there because I was hurt in my senior year, so there was no scholarships for me. Shattered my elbow in a Christmas tournament, and rehabilitation was not going to be a quick process to become competitive as I had maybe been prior. So junior college was the best route for me. My brother Jerome went to the same junior college, and over the course of 2.5 years, he got his AA degree. And because he was a student first, athlete second, Georgetown University was able to offer him a scholarship for his final 2 years of college and 2 years of eligibility. So during that time of high school to 2.5 years of junior college, my brother grew 7 inches from about 6'2" to 6'9". He grew another third of an inch while he was at Georgetown. So now he's almost 6'10". But the backstory is we're sitting at this draft heading to what ended up being Detroit Pistons. And we did not want to inspire a city, because most guys, when you get to a team, that's your city, right? That's the fan base that really is inspired, pays close attention to you. So we did not want to inspire young Detroiters to merely want to pick a ball up, to be like a Jerome Williams, to realize a dream that he had actually accomplished. Um, we wanted them to see that, guess what? He put in the hard work, and his goal was, I'm not leaving Georgetown University without my degree. because at the time President Clinton was in office, and I think he was a Georgetown graduate. So my brother's thinking, if this guy went to Georgetown, graduated, and could be president, then I realized what a Georgetown degree can do for me. My job was to make sure that was not forgotten, that it wasn't about jerseys and sneakers and basketball shorts and basketball camps. It was about how many kids in college come out with credit card debt because they're being offered credit on campus. We need to teach young people, don't make that mistake, because everybody's not going to get an NBA contract and be able to wipe all that debt out. Okay, well, what about doing your homework first before you go out and play or engage with friends? See, that was already a habit because my mother and father made sure before we went outside after school, homework had to be done first. So that was a habit they created. Wasn't one that we really liked, but they were being parental leaders, not parental friends. We're going to create a homework club. We teach kids the right process. So we partnered with the Boys and Girls Club upon arriving in Detroit, in hopes of making a name for my brother Jerome, not necessarily on the court, but off the court. And the philosophy was this: there's more people watching the game at home than the 23,000 they could squeeze into the Palace of Auburn Hills in Detroit. So if we claim the city, we could touch hundreds of thousands of people. You touch one child, you touch two parents that conspired to get that child here. So you touch three people. So that was our brand strategy. Let's focus on young people. By focusing on young people, you gain the mom and the dad. You gain their attention at least. And ultimately, we gain their respect. So my brother was that ball player that began getting the credit and getting the attention from not only the NBA, but many magazines and many awards, recognizing that he was a good guy in sport. And with recognition came more expectation. So that began to push me more and more into my purpose and my lane of service now, but way out of my comfort zone, to actually be what my brother was going to need me to be, to create programs, to write columns in the paper, to start the process of pulling deals together for us to write children's books. All these things were outside of my comfort zone. But I had to find the courage to be more than I saw in the mirror on that given day and say, next year I'm going to be better. And that was something that my grandmother said to each of us, be better than yesterday. So with that being said, each day, each month, each year, it was how do we do more? So how can we reach more kids this year? How can we create a new program? Matter of fact, we forgot about the teachers. We're doing all this motivating of kids, and we send them back to teachers that don't feel appreciated, especially when an athlete comes in and the kids are respectful and they're showing love and admiration, and the teachers that are there for them each day trying to help them build a dream feel unappreciated. So we created tickets for teachers. So one of the first groups of player and management to say, you know what, why don't we create a seating section where we pay for a certain number of seats at every home game, and we're going to make sure that teachers feel appreciated. And we had a system where teachers could put in for tickets for them and their family to come to the game with no charge on us. And we're talking about 50 to 100 seats every game. So that was a big thing. But to us, it was like, why stop here? All teachers aren't into sports. So why don't we leverage unused seats for concert venues, jazz events, plays coming through Detroit? And this is where people begin to realize these two young fellows are on to something different. They're not just doing basketball camps in the summer, trying to encourage more kids to bounce a ball. We were using a ball as a metaphor to say, hey, flat ball won't bounce up and down the court of life. So a flat mind is not going to take you far either. Bounce back from your obstacles and pass the ball to other people. Share this life experience. Share opportunities with others. So my brother shared his career with me, and it made a big difference in my life. I tried to make sure that I wasn't just what was being promoted to a lot of people on the outside as just a Klingon that somebody just wanted to take a free ride off a sibling or a friend. I wanted to make a difference, and I wanted to make sure he was best positioned to be remembered 5, 10, 15 years after basketball. And true to vision, to this day, my brother can make a direct call to the commissioner of the league of the NBA right now. And they know his name, they take his call, they listen to what he has to say. He has a place and a respect that far exceeds what he was able to accomplish on the court. It was what he accomplished in the court of life. And to be a part of that, you know, is unique and is special. But I knew that helping my brother wasn't my end all be all. So I set my own goals aside from what I did with my brother to reach people. And that's where I set a goal to talk to 1 million kids on my own. And a lot of that I did on my brother's behalf, but 500,000 of that was just Johnnie Williams wanted to go and was requested to go and speak. And I wanted to touch that. So moving here to Las Vegas, 2009, January 1st, coming upon another one of my anniversaries here in Las Vegas. I wanted to continue to give back, and UNLV, through their Gear Up grants and Nevada Department of Education, they actually had state partnership grants with Gear Up, which was a college readiness program, funding from the government. I think that program was cast by the Clinton administration. They provided this state with a lot of money to challenge the dropout rate. And what the state needed and what UNLV needed were partners that would help match dollar for dollar what the government was contributing to aid this state, aid us as Nevadans with pushing young people towards college and promoting education and college and high school graduation. So being that I was an encouragement specialist, being that I had already motivated K-12 prior to getting here, I was an ideal partner, I guess they would say. And my speaking value was high. And being that it was local, I could speak for a lot less, and they were able to claim that gap. So I provided enough gap in pay to what my value was that I contributed $1 million of those funds coming to the state to be leveraged to move more kids towards college, as first generation college students. So I was able then to hit a second goal, which is the donation of $1 million on top of talking to 1 million kids. So I find myself now in the next transition. I want to reach 1 million people on a daily basis online with meaningful content and genuine encouragement. And platforms like what you're offering to me right now is a part of that. So I appreciate you for all that you do and all the goodwill that you do and linking people together and promoting companies having, you know, a interest in giving back and not just taking from society, but giving something back. So I applaud all your efforts as well, Guy, for all that you do. Oh, can you?
Excuse me. It was really interesting to hear when you were talking about you and your brother working together as brothers in a much different capacity than you would imagine. That usually when you hear about players in the NBA, maybe you'll have a brother who's working with his brother. But of course, the focus is always, okay, well, sneaker deals or, you know, something related to playing basketball. But
Yeah.
because you and your brother had a mission, you had a purpose, you had something larger that you were developing as brothers. I think that is just a fantastic testimony to your parents,
Yeah.
as well as to your commitment to one another, to make each other greater.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that what a great example of brotherhood, what you and your brother have built together.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, it came with its test, but I think that sometimes the test is graded in the future, right? So you get a chance now, we get a chance to look back and say, okay, was it worth it? Answer is yes, right? Did we hit our goal? The answer is yes. Number one, my brother's still set for life. So that 3 to 4 year time period post pro sport, NFL, NBA, where no matter what the player made, they're broke. my brother is still set. Kids are set up to go to college. Matter of fact, my nieces are headed to Georgetown. One is there now, and one is headed there at the end of this current school year on volleyball scholarships. But their money for school and private school was already saved up. So these are the type of things that you want to see when someone makes it to the next level, that they're able to sustain that level. And that's something I think that I have to give credit to my parents. You know, they taught us how to level up and be prepared. But if you're not satisfied with that level, learn what it's going to take to go to the next level. You know, and then you want to go ahead and proceed higher. So, so one of the goals was that my brother would be set, my parents be set, you know, life after basketball, and you're not looking back. So that was accomplished. The second goal, as it relates to all the efforts in the community, was that we'd have impacted some lives, and we would have become better people, you know. And I think that everybody that lent an ear to what we had to say, everybody that accepted whatever we offered, you know, they made it a habit for us to become givers. So what we became during that professional experience was professional givers. And that's one of the reasons why I could say encouragement specialist, because I was put in a position where I could encourage or discourage, because we were in the public eye. And what we wanted to do was encourage, you know, and I wanted to look for different, unique ways, look at the psychology and how people receive, not just it's good to give, but what does that gift feel like if I aim it this way, if I word it this way, you know? I'll give you an example. One of the things that I learned over the years was we don't give to the less fortunate. That's unnecessary. That branding doesn't need to be there to elevate the accomplishment or elevate the gift. You know, you got to be very sensitive to the receiver and how the receiver is used, because that goes out in the press release. Here you have a great news feature for yourself, for your brother, you know, whatever you're doing. Like Jerome and Johnnie Williams, you know, serving a bunch of unfortunate kids. Like, that doesn't sound good, you know? How about they're amazing kids? How about there are no rich kids and there are no poor kids? There are kids who go home to parents who are well off and kids who go home to parents who are struggling. And where we find them in K-12 experience is in that gap where they have an opportunity to change their future or sustain a positive circumstance. How about we encourage them to take that very seriously? If you're doing well at home, you better work to maintain that, because right now you're under the grace of mom and dad that are covering you under all of their connections. If mom or mom and dad are struggling, that's their circumstance. But you are able to create, by way of a free education, a new circumstance, a new outcome. But you got to be able to hold that vision. So we create a legacy out of giving young people a new vision. And we did it by breaking down the nickname my brother had. They called him the Junkyard Dog, JYD for short. So everywhere we go, hey, JYD, right? So my thing is, what is JYD going to mean? So my brother decided, just be yourself. You should set some goals and do your best. So at the end of the day, don't be Jerome, don't be Johnny, don't be Guy, don't be anybody else. Be you, right? Set some goals. Aspire to be better than yesterday and do the best you can. If you make that your habit, just doing your best, you know, you can look back and say, hey, even with the mistakes, could we have reached more people? Yes, but we reached a lot. Were we looking at comparing how many we were reaching in comparison to other athletes who just maybe had basketball camps? No, because the only comparison is Johnny versus Johnny yesterday, Jerome versus Jerome yesterday. And the outcome from that was a lot of community awards, a lot of city civic, you know, city council awards. My brother had 2 trips to the White House to sit with George W. Bush. I can say that at the time he wasn't a Republican. So you can do the math on that. Most athletes only make it to the White House for a steak dinner if they've won a championship in college or at the pro level. Those are the classic trips that the team gets to go to the White House, sit with the president. My brother went to the White House twice. They enjoyed his visit the first time. He got invited back a second time under George W. during all the time period with the craziness with, weapons of mass destruction, Homeland Security, all that. When they took time out to look at No Child Left Behind and their educational initiatives, my brother, as a Georgetown graduate with honors and a legacy of youth programs during the season, not during the summer, it led to some outcomes where we got some very high level acknowledgement for taking a different route, for focusing in on something different and leveraging the light of the NBA to promote education and literacy.
And recently you reached out to me with a opportunity that I was just thrilled to receive, and that is to take a walk for mental health. With
Yeah.
us being in some interesting circumstances with this, interesting is a very light word, but
Yeah.
mental health is a big issue in this country as well as in the world right now, because we're undergoing a situation involved in something that most of us who are alive today have never experienced before. And
Yeah.
you have this activity that you're doing, getting people together, getting them outside with these walks. What inspired you to develop this group that you are promoting now to get people to walk and talk? It looks like Johnny has frozen up for a second. I hope he's going to come back. Uh, there you are, Johnny. Are you there? Yeah, it
Okay.
looks like your internet
Well,
connection is. Are you there, Johnny? Looks like your internet connection is off a little bit. I'm
yes.
just going to keep
Well, okay.
talking, and hopefully your connection will come back
That's all
in
right.
and you'll be
But
able to.
okay. But I'll go ahead and answer that question, Guy. I appreciate you even
There you go, Johnny.
allowing us to promote that. Um, the organization that I've had the opportunity to work with and help promote is Heart to Give. So Heart to and Give. On Facebook platform, you can follow the business page at Heart to Give. Braindarius Johnson is a young man that reminds me and reminds my brother a lot of ourselves. He was also a collegiate athlete. Like myself, injuries prevented going any further. But but he had quite a tragic experience with the loss of his college sweetheart due to suicide. Moving beyond college and into his lane of serving, he graduated with a degree in sociology and realized that there was a lot of mental health issues and concerns, especially with football players post-career because of concussions. He had 5 concussions, so he dealt with, not going on to the next level, dealing with that. But at the same time, the concussions and the type of anxieties that those create, when you're living beyond, a playing career that was as physical as football. So with his experience and loss to a loved one to suicide, he was very passionate about 4 or 5 years ago to begin the process of raising awareness for what we call sad days, suicidal days, anxiety filled days, and depression, filled days. So when we lose people to those 3 things, suicide, anxiety, depression, um, there's a very sad moment for the community, but more importantly, the parents, the family, the close friends. So we realized that this year, the isolation, the loss of so many core components in people's lives, um, the putting on of masks and the disruption of the airflow, creating that hyperventilation feeling, um, the quarantine of 6 feet and staying at home or staying away from others has created isolation that's fed into depression. For some people, social anxiety when they go back out amongst people. So we realized that this big issue called mental illness was already a problem, but it's a problem that a lot of people didn't feel comfortable talking about. And he wanted to do his part in destigmatizing the conversation, but also as an athlete, promote some of the benefits of working out, walking, getting outside in nature. So September 11th of this year, he began a run. 10 days, 10 miles a day, 100 miles was the goal. Fox 5 and other news companies locally covered that. And the momentum and the awareness grew over some 40 some thousand people were inspired, were watching him as he scaled through this run and through this feat of effort to just say, this is a problem. And I'm willing to put one foot in front of the other to represent and encourage all the people that are at that ledge saying, I'm not willing to take another step in life because nobody cares. Nothing matters. He's saying, I'm taking a step for them. So some 200,000 plus steps that he's took to run the 100 miles was for 200,000 plus individuals that might not take another step, and to try to bring awareness to people who may be close to someone who's suffering in silence. So Walk and Talk was a way of us locally continuing the momentum until next September when he runs that 100 miles again, unless individuals like myself, you guys, some news anchors, local celebrities say, I'll take on 3 miles, I'll take on 2 miles, I'll take on 1, I'll take on a half a mile. So we decreased that 100-mile toll being solely on Brandarius Johnson's back and saying, we got your back. Matter of fact, we have other people's backs that need us to step forward and say, you don't have to suffer in silence. You don't have to be ashamed. So what we decided to do was meet at Sunset Park the second Sunday of each month. So we have one coming up January 10th. I know you came out December 13th, and there was a little bit of challenge in finding where we're located. We actually are on the walking path at Sunset Park, which the entrance is closest to Warm Springs right off Eastern Avenue. Sunset Park's a big park. We'll be getting started at 2:30 and wrap up by 4 o'clock. Pizza is being provided by IDK Pizza. Cupcakes provided for the kids and also for the big kids by Penny Cakes. So we create an atmosphere of just getting people outside. Bring your dog, bring your little ones with the stroller, bring your teenagers, bring your family, bring a friend. And there's plenty of space on a paved path. We walk 1 mile to create the distance that's necessary for everyone to be safe. But the biggest thing, though, is getting back out in nature and understanding that everything in this life realm that we experience has presented itself in duality. There's night, there's day. There's cause, there's effect. There's a problem, there's an answer. So if there's a health concern, there's a natural healing alternative. And immune health is something that we need to speak more about because that's our body's natural defense system. And the isolation has kind of kept a lot of us, at home, and it's decreased our immune health. So we need to get back outside and start working that out, and also allow the sun to hit our face, allow the fresh air to bring some peace and aid us with these challenges that a lot of people are facing with mental illnesses, suicidal thoughts, anxiety, and depressive thoughts. I think sun sign and a good conversation with a good friend. Therapists will be on hand walking with us. More and more therapists are donating an hour and a half a month to join us, so that way you can walk with a therapist. We're just looking at ways to give people a chance to give back and be there for each other. A lot like the platforms that you've created, Guy. With the goodwill marketing campaigns, and I know it's a Chamber of Commerce, and help me with it.
Cause marketing
Cause
chamber.
marketing. Thank you. Yes, the Cause Marketing Chamber of Commerce. I think that's an amazing concept. And I just believe that concepts like that, concepts like Walk and Talk, simple things that you'd be like, nobody thought of this before I did, right? Bring people together to work with each other, to help each other, as opposed to just compete. We got to start collaborating. And I believe that, you and I will collaborate in many years to come, and I appreciate your support. Appreciate you reading the book, and And I hope you read the next one, because next week we'll be releasing self-talk. 33 levels to improvement. And that's something that I'm really excited about. And that's something we took time to write during, 2020, with a lot of focus being placed on what was lost and what we hope to get back. We in my household, we decided to co-author a book, Talene, Sophie, and I, and say, let's focus on how do we elevate out of this season we find ourselves into not only more prosperity, but just higher levels of consciousness and being self-improved as individuals, so that we could be better models for our kids and better neighbors to our neighbors. So I appreciate you having me on, and hopefully our conversation was fruitful for anybody listening.
Absolutely, it was fruitful, Johnny. And if there's one thing that the people in this world need more of, it is encouragement, and being an encouragement specialist, and all the different levels that you talked about throughout this interview today. The collaborative component, as you mentioned, you put your hands together. Everything was about collaboration at some level that you talked about today. And I think that is the win-win-win situation that you rarely hear about in life. As you mentioned, you hear much more about the competitive clash rather than the collaborative efforts of people. In reality, the collaboration is really what brings greater humanity to us all, because the competitive situations are not really what makes society the great place that our world, the great place that it is. It's really about us coming together as humanity and making things happen. And so I always appreciate the opportunity to speak with you, brother. And will you share with the audience how they can get in contact with you if they want to hire you as a speaker, if they want to buy one of your books, or if they want to connect with you in any way?
Well, the easiest thing, I see here on the screen, guy, you have my name listed as Johnnie Williams. You can always look me up, Johnnie Williams III, Google. JohnnyWilliams.com is direct route to the website. And on the homepage of our website, you'll find access to purchase something to think about. So you'll see an image of this book right there on the homepage. It allows you to access either ebook or print copy. As well as a little bit beneath that, you'll have access to car conversations where I just give catchy, short videos, give you something to think about, and link to Android and Apple versions of the app Think About It, which again is the Daily Quote app, 7 languages, and give you something to talk about within your relationship to your kids. It's a great tool and a gift. The free version is going to give you something catchy to think about each day. I enjoy the free version, actually. I would love for you to get the paid version, but the book allows you to write inside of it. The ebook just allows you access to all the quotes, and the app will provide you a daily reminder right on your smartphone, day by day, throughout a calendar year, with a thought a day. And the cool thing is, we decided to make sure everybody's getting the same thought, no matter when they download the app on the same day, to offer our part in creating fruitful conversations. We didn't want everybody on a different page. We find that society's already on too many different pages, and we wanted to try to find a way to link people, and having some conversation topics will be a great way for us to make that contribution. So again, Guy, thank you for having me, and anyone that would like to get in touch with me, JohnnyWilliams.com would be the best first step in doing that.
Well, thank you again for Johnny for stopping by and being a part of the Voices of Humanity show. And thank all of you for tuning in to our broadcast. Stay tuned for upcoming broadcasts with many aspects from people who are offering their Voices of Humanity, such as Johnnie Williams. We will have announcements in the Facebook group, on YouTube, and elsewhere. You take care of yourselves and be a little bit more human every day. See you soon.